Hello, Ancestry cousins and inquiring minds. So I can't get off this Keith family for some reason. Okay, so we're going to talk about, well, I'm going to talk about the Keiths of Kingar. So when my third great grandmother, Emma Keith, she stayed in D.C. Her sister, Bertie Keith, married and moved to Pittsburgh, Virginia. But the brother, Joseph Daniel Keith, left DC, moved to Remington, Virginia for 20 years, and then moved to Kingar, which is a community that's nested between Kensington, Maryland, and Garrett Park, Maryland, in Montgomery County. So I found this article. I had all of these people added on this tree because I'm trying to know where Daniel, Keith, and Anna Thornton came from in Virginia because I didn't find them in the 1870 census. So, but I do know that her name was Ann Thornton. It's been, documented a couple of times. So, uh, yeah, I don't know what happened to her, where she went, when she died, anything. She just kind of like disappeared too. So I was trying to trace Daniel to Remington to see if she had moved there. Don't know. So so I noticed that when he moved there and all of his sons moved to this community in called Kingar, which I had never heard of before. So as I keep going back through all of the siblings, I noticed something that all of them, their um, uh, funerals were held at First Baptist Church of Kingar. And I was like, oh, I had never noticed that before. And so then it was like, what is this Kingar? Because I never really paid attention. Actually, it was a newspaper article that I found because I always like kept searching the Keith name to see if I could find like when people got married, um, marriage notifications that were in the newspaper in DC, things like that. So I found this newspaper article, Barty in Creek, death probed. Montgomery County Police are awaiting an autopsy report to determine what caused the death of a Kensington woman whose body was found in Rock Creek, a few blocks from her home on Saturday. Police said Mrs. Alberta Keith Hopkins, 57, a widow of 10733 Shaftesbury Street, Kingar, has not been seen for at least 30 days before her body was found about 5 p.m. By two boys playing near the Kingar Recreation Center. Police said there was no indication of foul play, but the cause of death had not been determined. And this newspaper article was from the Evening Star. I did document that one on 3/25, 1963. Okay. So I read that. I was like, what is this? Kangar. Kangar. So I started doing this. Started Googling it and stuff, and I found YouTube videos, right? So I was like, oh, they are like a whole community that you know, different people in the community were making videos talking about this enclave of, colored blacks, whatever, that was living in this community. It was between Kensington and Garrett Park in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is right up Georgia Avenue. And I'm like, whoa, you mean to tell me the cousinless, auntless person had somebody right up the road, straight up Georgia Avenue? That's my street, like 7th Street, Georgia Avenue. Anyway, so I started watching the videos and stuff and looking at these names. And so I started searching for them on Facebook. Is any of these people on Facebook? So I got in, and Googling them on YouTube, not YouTube, but Google, to see if you could find phone numbers and addresses and stuff like that. So I started reaching out to some people, and I did find a couple of phone numbers. So one of the people that I found, they said, oh yeah, contact this person. She knows all the family history, blah, 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 blah. So I contacted her on Facebook, and she blew me off. I don't know you. But I came to her very kindly, say, hi, I'm a family historian. I'm an ancestor of this person. I'm doing our research. I'm connected to the Keiths. And, I never met anybody. I just put this whole thing on there. She was like, I don't know you. She blew me off. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I came back and said, Well, my cousin, someone do I really think is a cousin with that last name, Keith, followed through for me. So I'm going to read this from something that I was writing to put this together, because when you start following me, if you watch my videos, I can be like a typewriter, go, and then you got to, so I have to try to keep things on track. So I might write them down. The Keiths of Kingar. During a break from Ancestry, I decided to focus on newspapers since I had a fully paid subscription on Genealogy Bank, where I found a newspaper article about a distant cousin, Alberta Keith Hopkins, about her suspicious death that took place near the Kendall Community Center. And I just read that for you. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I never heard of Kendall. That's 100% true. I was blown away by the fact that for years, I already said that, this made me research all the information that I had accumulated on my ancestry tree for all the descendants of my great great grand uncle, Joseph Daniel Keith. Joseph Daniel Keith was born in Prince George's County, Maryland. He moved with his family to DC, then to Remington, Virginia, and sorry, I just got a message pop up. But that was wonderful. And then with his family, according to the censuses. Since censuses track family every 10 years without knowledge of the family, it becomes more difficult to trace family members. So you don't know them, like DC had those city directories, and I talked about those in the previous videos, and I used them. Those are such an excellent source. Don't sleep on those city directories. Since censuses track families every 10 years without knowledge of the family, is more difficult to trace members. The obits of the children of Alberta Keith Hopkins, Joseph's granddaughter, helped me fill in information that the 1950 census left me wondering, because the 1950 census is the last census, so that's a long time between now and you don't know nothing about the people. Joseph's parents were Daniel Keith and Ann Thornton. I found the Keiths in Vanville, Montgomery County, 1880. Nothing in 1870. I don't know where they came from. So my great grandmother Emma Keith Norman lived in D.C. Grand Aunt Bertie migrated to Pittsburgh. I could find no children for Bertie, and Emma only had one. That was my great grandma Frances, who I told y'all a story about previously. Joseph would be the only one to have many children. Okay. I found Joseph with the family living in Remington, Virginia in 1910 and 1920. And the two families, and the two were buried there. So whereabouts, I know. So he had two sons that passed. And Joseph and one of his sons, they wanted to be buried in Remington. All other members that I could find an obit for had their service at First Baptist Kingar, Kensington. Okay, so Joseph's wife's first name, his wife was Mariah. And she became Mariah. Her name was Mariah Scott, but she became, I'm trying to get it. Okay, Mariah Keith. I found a young lady with the same name, Mariah Keith, on Ancestry, living in Kensington. Did you know Ancestry gives you like a list of these previous addresses and stuff? Because she's older now, but this was like high school stuff. So I didn't believe this could be a coincidence, for real. Using public records, I searched Montgomery County deeds, just searching the last name Keith, and I found the wife of one of my cousins was left a house in Kingar by her grandmother, and she left the house to her son and her grandson. That deed gave me a name of a living relative. The son had passed already because I found his obit. I knew he was gone. And I Googled the grandson, and the ancestry record for Maria Keith listed the same address. So I Googled him and found his address on Google, and Mariah Keith was at the same address. And this took me, so I took a chance and wrote a letter. I don't know the phone numbers. The phone numbers change, So I received a call, and we have been in communication for months, but I have not met him in person. He has not taken the Ancestry DNA test, as he is not affiliated with it. Neither was Mariah. It was just that her information came up in public records. Like if you Google somebody's phone number, you could do something and you could pay for additional information, but some of those phone numbers may not work anymore, but those past addresses will be there and all that stuff. I asked if I paid for the DNA test, if he would take it. But I did tell him the downfalls. Like, if you have questionable activities in your past, you may not want to take it, because I've seen that people have, been arrested, or the grandmother committed a murder a long time ago and your DNA test tied to her. And so I'm like, whoa. So yeah, I had to, just break that down. So no, we have not tested. But that was I actually went through the deeds and found him. So I'm just saying, with this, just because it's the end of the 1950 census, we have to get inventive and use what you have currently available to you. And look, you can go online and find anybody on the house now if they have property, But he had actually sold that house, but it had, that online information, and I just wrote a letter. I've actually written a letter to one of the other cousins too, but he has not replied. So what you gonna do? So this is like the first time that I've actually used the today's online resources to search for somebody, a living person, to find a deed now. So I was psyched about that, and the fact that he responded and everything. And he did. He sent me pictures. And he told, I asked him about his father, and he told me, I got to mention this. He told me that his grandfather, who was John Keith, his grandfather used to talk about Culpeper, Virginia. So if I got Keith's cousins, Remington, Culpeper, Virginia, holler at me, hit me up so I can start making these connections and figure out what's going on. But I did go to Remington, Virginia on the census, and I found that Daniel Keith that was born, I think it was 1825 or something like that. And I just added him on the tree just because they got the same name. And he was from the same area. It don't necessarily mean that's his father, but I'm trying to see if that'll get a through lines hit. And that would, I could be at the end of that line right there, and I just had to find Anna, and then I could move on to somebody else, because I do not like brick walls. I like to know where they buried, where they came from, and that's the end of that. And, go above that, who was there, mother and father. So if you found this video interesting, like and subscribe. But thank you for watching, and I hope you'll watch the next one.